Okay, so welcome to lecture number 17 in ME303 heat transfer. So today we will be continuing our discussion on the spatial effects that we were discussing last time. So we stopped at a point where I mentioned that the spatial effects when your bio number is greater than 0.1, then the temperature is a function of x and t, okay, both the space coordinates as well as the time coordinate. And in that case, we have to develop an equation that should give us a solution of this temperature as a function of x and t. Now, in this case, we can use the heat conduction equation, unlike last time where there was no spatial effect at all. So, since we can use the equation, so we wrote the equation. So, we said that your del T by del temperature times rho C is del 2T by del x squared times K. Okay, so this is the equation you have, and we were trying to solve it for a situation where you have this bar. So this bar, this is the center of the bar. So the center is x equal to 0, and this bar size is twice of L, and there's convection happening at the boundaries where the temperature of the fluid is T infinity, that's cooling the hot bar, and the heat transfer coefficient for convection is H. Okay, so we wrote the equations, and then we wrote the initial and boundary conditions, because in this case you have one time derivative and two spatial derivatives. So we need one boundary condition in time that we call the initial condition. So that is the temperature at all x values at t equal to 0 should be specified. That was T initial, that's given to us. So you should know how hot the bar is initially. And then we had the two boundary conditions. The first one was at the center plane, where we said that since there's symmetry here, so we can have the adiabatic boundary condition here, that is your del temperature by del x at x equal to 0 is 0, because it's symmetric, so there is no heat that should flow, because if the heat flows in the right direction, then by the same reasoning it should flow in the left direction as well. So that means that you'll have a symmetric boundary condition at x equal to 0, and the second boundary condition is at x equal to L, where you have the convection happening. So you have the heat conducting out is the same as the heat that's convecting out. So what we get is minus K times del T by del X at x equal to L is the Q convection, which is H times this is the flux we're talking about. So H times T at L comma time minus T infinity. Okay, so this is these are the boundary conditions, initial and boundary conditions, and then we try to solve this. But before that, let us have a look. Let's see this temperature, which is a function of this temperature that we're trying to find out. As engineers, what should it depend on? Okay, let's get a feel of that. Of course, it's a function of x and t, but it is also a function of other things. So if my initial bar was at a different temperature, then I would get a different value of the temperature at a later time in at some spatial point. It's also a function of what the fluid temperature is that is cooling it. It is also a function of how thick the bar is. It's also a function of the thermal conductivity of the bar. If I take two bars of different materials, I would expect different temperatures at a given spatial point and time. Then it's also a function of the product of rho times C. Okay, so if I have a material which has a different rho C, as you can see in this equation here, then a different value of rho C will give you a different solution. It's also a function of H, the heat transfer coefficient at the boundary. So you can see that I mean, you have to take the equation as well as the boundary conditions, the initial conditions. So all of these together have these many variables. So if we start, let's say I was to solve this equation somehow and then tabulate all the solutions possible, I would have to create a matrix which has a lot of dimensions. It has 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. It's an 8-dimensional matrix that I have to develop for tabulating the solutions for a given geometry. Okay, as the geometry changes, everything changes. So you can see that it's a lot of work. So as you have seen in fluid mechanics, we'll do the same in heat transfer as well by non-dimensionalizing this variable. So we started with that. So what we said was that let's non-dimensionalize to reduce the number of variables. So what we did was we started with theta. So we said that let's define theta. So what I called theta last time, I'll call theta star this time. So this theta star was defined as it was defined as theta upon theta initial. We have used this notation earlier. So this is the temperature difference between the actual temperature at a given point in time minus the temperature that you have at the boundary. So that's your temperature difference between the surface temperature and the boundary. Well, not the surface, the inside temperature, divided by the maximum difference you can have. So the maximum difference you can have is at t equal to 0. So at t equal to 0, the whole bar is at Ti. So Ti minus T infinity is the maximum difference. So we define this theta star as theta upon theta I. Okay, so this theta, as we defined earlier as well, is T minus T infinity. Okay, so this helps us get this theta star, which varies between 0 and 1. Okay. Because at T equal to 0, your temperature is Ti, and then this theta becomes 1. And at T equals, at time equal to very long time, you will see that this temperature of the bar will approach the T infinity. So you get your theta star going to 0. Okay, so that was one. The other one was x star, that we define as x upon L. Okay, so this also helps us define an x star. Well, I sometimes tend to use this x. So this x star again varies from 0 and 1. Okay, so in this case, just have a look at the problem again. So you are only considering this as your domain, because it's symmetric. So there's no point solving on the left hand side, because that will also be the same. Okay. And then we also defined a non-dimensional time, which we called T star. Sorry, this must have been x star was defined as x upon L, and this T star was defined. I did the non-dimensionalization last time, and what we got was we got T divided by L square upon alpha, where your alpha is the thermal diffusivity defined as K upon rho C. Okay. So of course this varies between 0 and infinity. Sorry. Okay, again, this is a repetition of what we did last time, and then we got our the equation. So the non-dimensional equation was del theta star by del t, that was equal to del 2 theta star, so this is t star, upon del x star square. So this was our governing differential equation, the GDE, governing differential equation. And the initial condition, now it becomes my theta. So instead of t, I have the unknown as theta star, and that's a function of x star, and initial condition is at T star equal to 0, and we know that this is equal to 1. And for the boundary condition, the first one becomes theta star, sorry, del theta star by del x star at x star equals 0 is 0. So it looks very similar to what we had last time. But the second boundary condition, that looks a bit different. So this one, again, I did this yesterday, so I won't repeat it. So this one becomes del theta star by del x star at x star equals 1, because it's a non-dimensional coordinate. So x equal to L is x star equal to 1. And this is equal to minus the bio number times your theta star at the boundary. So I'll call it at 1 comma T star. Okay, so let's look at the system now. So we have the governing differential equation, and then we have the initial condition and the boundary condition. So if I, like earlier we had, let's go back. So we had this system where we had the differential equation and the boundary conditions. So here what we saw was that this is where we saw all the variables. Okay, so we got the dependence on rho c, dependence on k, x, t, ti, t infinity, and h. Okay, so from the system we saw all the dependence in this expression. But now if we see our new system now, so we have a dependence of theta star on T star, x star, and bio number. You see that we have simplified system a lot by non-dimensionalizing. So we have a theta star is a function of my x star, T star, and bio number only. And this is an extremely useful expression in the sense that for a given geometry, again, we're talking about this rectangular geometry only. We cannot change the geometry, but for this given geometry, all I now have to do is find the value of theta star. I need to find a table where my theta star is given as a function of different x star values between 0 and 1, different t star values between 0 and infinity, and different bio numbers. So once I find that table, if I am dealing with designing, let's say, these um, glass panes for walls or so on, so I can always use my table to find the theta star value, which can then be used to find my temperature value as a function of x and t for any given t infinity and ti. So that's the power of non-dimensionalizing the system, so that the number of unknown, the number of independent variables reduces. Is that clear? Good. So we will now proceed further. So this now we have obtained a quantity. Before I actually move on to the solution of this equation, let's take, well, T star. Okay, so this T star that we have got, which is T upon L square by alpha, or alpha T by L square, this actually has a name. It's called the Fourier number. Because the same Fourier, the frame mathematician Fourier, who helped give the Fourier law of heat conduction. In fact, Fourier has done so much work in heat transfer that he gave his law of heat conduction to be able to write the heat conduction equation and then he developed the mathematics to solve this equation. So that Fourier series and Fourier transform and all these things that you've learned was actually developed by Fourier as well. So this is he did a complete work in the sense of to solve a problem. He did everything that could be done to solve and get the solution, which involves a lot of engineering hypotheses, scientific hypotheses, as well as the mathematics, developing the mathematics for solving them. Okay, so a very important person in this course, like we had Cauchy in continuum mechanics. Okay, so let's analyze this number. In fact, so in many cases you will see that instead of T star, people will be using Fourier number. So they'll say theta star is a function of X star, and then the Fourier number as well as the Biot number. Okay, so it's also known as the Fourier number, FO. Okay, so let's in fact go back and do a recap and remember the lumped capacitance model. So there what we got was the solution, if you remember, theta upon theta I was e to the power of minus t by tau. And if I remember my expression for tau, which was, I'll write the exp expression here now, minus t, and tau was nothing but rc, and r is 1 by ha, so I get ha on the top, and then I have c was the capacitance was rho times volume times the specific heat. Okay, so if I further multiply both numerator and denominator by a k, that's the thermal conductivity, and I write my volume as L times the area, because remember we are solving this half of the bar, so this is L and the cross sectional area is A here, so the volume of this bar is LA, so this is LA, and then you have the specific heat C times K. Okay, so if I take now rho times C, so this rho times C, so sorry, K by rho C is my alpha, so I can write this as minus alpha, and then you have a T here, so I multiply by T, and then I have well this sorry, this alpha, so we have alpha and T, and then we have so A cancels out, and then I have an L here, and then I have so I can multiply the numerator and denominator by L, so I get an L square, and then remaining part is this H, so we have an H times L by K. Okay, so this HL by K becomes the Biot number, HL by K. So this is what we have. So this becomes the exponential of the minus the Fourier number times the Biot number. So basically what we see is this theta upon theta I, which is nothing but theta star as we have defined now. So earlier our lumped capacitance analysis gave us theta star was a function of the Fourier number and Biot number. Okay, so this is what we got earlier. And right now we have this theta star is a function of X star, Fourier number, and Biot number, okay, like here. And that makes sense because earlier we had a lumped capacitance analysis, so that means that we assumed that the spatial effects were not there, so it was only a function of Fourier and Biot number, and now we have a spatial dependence as well. Okay, so the same ideas that we have now were also working earlier. But again, coming back to our Fourier number, so let's look at this Fourier number again. So this okay, so what I can do is to analyze this Fourier number, I can multiply both the numerator and denominator by the volume, and I can expand this alpha as K by rho C, just to show you something. And in fact, I can also multiply both numerator and denominator by a delta t. Okay. So that's the delta t across the center, which is the left, x equal to 0, and you have x equal to L, which is this. So this is what I'm calling the delta T, the temperature difference across the two walls. Okay. So this first V I will write as A times L, and you'll see why we are doing this. And now let's combine a few terms. So the first thing we can combine here is I can take the delta T on the top, and then I can have a K A, so A and K, and then I can take one of the L's here, and the rest is in the denominator. So then I take so I take V and rho, that gives me the mass, density times volume is mass, and then I have C. Okay, this L, one of the L cancels, and then I have this T can be taken here. And now let's see. So this is my delta T, and this is my conductive resistance. So that's potential difference. That's K by L is 1 by R conduction. So that is the current or the heat flux, sorry, the heat rate, the watts because of conduction. And this denominator is mc delta T by time, that is the rate of energy being stored. So Fourier number can also be understood as the rate of conduction inside the solid to the rate at which energy is stored inside the solid. Okay, so again, I won't talk much about this. We will discuss this later, but just food for thought. Think about it. Why? I mean, how this ratio is going to be useful. And once we start applying using this Fourier number, try to take an analogy between this understanding of Fourier number as the ratio of conductive rate to the storage rate to the analysis in the problem. So what happens for a very small Fourier number, or what happens for a very large Fourier number? So we'll be discussing that again, but I just thought I'll discuss the importance of Fourier number with you. Okay, so remember where we were. So we were solving our system, which is this system, which consists of this governing differential equation and one initial condition and two boundary conditions. So theta star is a function of x star, Fourier number, and Bio number. Okay, well, actually, I won't be solving this in front of you here because it requires a lot of mathematics. But for this situation where you have this bar of size 2L with convection happening on both boundaries, it is possible to obtain an analytical solution for for this system. And I don't have enough time today, so I'll stop here. And in the next class, I'll be discussing some analytical solutions for this system, and we'll be analyzing them because it's an infinite series solution. So we'll be analyzing how we can approximate the solutions by using just the first few terms of the infinite series. We will be analyzing them by plotting them. I'll be using Python, and I'll be showing you plots, and then we'll see for different situations where we can approximate the infinite series by only the first or the first few terms. Okay, because this is important, because when we want to estimate the solution, we don't really want to add infinite numbers, as long as the contribution of each subsequent number in the series is almost negligible as compared to the other. Okay, so I'll stop the recording now, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Hi. This is going to be the second part of lecture number 17 that was on the heat conduction, transient heat conduction with spatial effects. Now, for those looking at the YouTube video, this is going to be a continuation of your lecture number 17. So just a quick recap for those looking at it as a separate lecture. We've been talking about, we said that we'll discuss transient heat conduction in 3 steps. The first step was the lumped capacitors model, where the spatial effects are negligible. That is when the bio number is less than 0.1. But when the bio number is greater than 0.1, then we have to consider spatial effects, as we started discussing in 17th lecture. So we took the example of this bar, where we just considered the half of the bar because it's a symmetric situation. On the right hand side, we have convection boundary condition, and on the left hand side of this green boundary, that's the center boundary of the bar, we have an adiabatic boundary condition because of symmetry. Then we non-dimensionalize the system to reduce the number of independent variables, and finally we saw that our theta star, which is the variable of interest, that's t minus t infinity divided by ti minus t infinity, is between 0 and is between 0 and 1, and our x star, the non-dimensional length, is also in between 0 and 1. So that simplifies the numerical values quite a lot. And t star, we also talked about t star being the Fourier number, and this t star is between 0 and infinity. So finally, our governing differential equation and the boundary conditions became as follows, as you can see. So we had the del theta star by del t star equals del 2 theta star by del x star square. The initial condition was at t star equal to 0, we had theta star equal to 1 as here, and then at the center condition and the center boundary of the bar, we had del theta star by del x star equals 0, and on the right hand side boundary we had this boundary condition. I also discussed about the importance of Fourier number and the understanding of Fourier number in the last lecture. And finally, we said that we have to solve this system, this partial differential equation with the given initial and boundary conditions for different situations, for different values of x star, Fourier number or t star, and bio numbers. So once we have this information for a given geometry, then we have everything we need. So we don't need to solve it again and again. So if designing and manufacturing the glass panes, then for these glass windows, we will have to design them for different situations, for internal, outside, internal and external temperature, and so on. So once we have this tabulated system, the tabulated theta star values for different x star, t star, and bio number values, then we can use that rather than solving the system again and again. But we should know how to solve this to be able to tabulate those to tabulate those values. So then today what we'll do is we will look at the solution of this bar, the rectangular bar that we have been talking about. But you can solve this for cylindrical and spherical coordinates as well. Okay, I won't solve it in front of you. I will give you the solution and then we'll analyze that. So the geometry we have is still going to be very similar to what we have been talking about. So we have this bar of thickness 2L, and this bar's symmetric in the sense of the boundary conditions we have. So we have convection on both right and left boundaries. So as we have done earlier, that we'll take our domain to be the right half in this case. So what we say is that the center is x equal to 0 and the right hand side is x equals L. Okay, so it's similar to what we have had earlier. And again, we solve the system using the same idea of the method of separation of variables. Okay, so as we've done in the past for 2D heat conduction, so we do this. We use the same idea. So we separate. In this case, we have two independent coordinates. So in this case, my theta star is a function of x star and t star. So you use the same approach. You say that let us assume that we can write this in terms of a function capital X, which is purely a function of x star, times capital T, which is purely a function of t star. And then you proceed as follows, as same as last time. And what you will see is, in this case, you get a similar solution like you had previously in terms of the infinite Fourier series. So I'll write the solution here in front of you. The theta star, which is a function of x star and t star, is a summation over n, and then we have the coefficient here, and then we have cos lambda n x star. So this coefficient we have is has got Cn, which I'll write in the next line, and then you have an exponential term of minus lambda n square times t star. Okay. And let's write the Cn as well. So here Cn is given as 4 times sine lambda n divided by twice lambda n plus sine twice lambda n. Okay, so these lambda n's are they appear as remember we took something equal to constant, and this constant was remember we said that it can either be negative, 0 or positive, so that a constant was taken as lambda n squared or lambda squared. So this is the same kind of lambda. So lambda again, if you remember previously, we obtained from one of the boundary conditions. The same happens here. So lambda n in this case is the solution of the equation, which is given as this one. So you can see it has bio number in it, so it must have been obtained using the boundary condition on the right hand side. If I just show you, so it was this boundary condition which had the bio number in it, which was the right hand side boundary condition. Okay, so please do try it yourself. So this lambda is obtained from the solution of this transcendental equation, lambda n tan lambda n equals bio number. So this equation has lots of solutions, and for different values of n you get different solutions. In fact, usually you would see that you can solve this equation numerically using MATLAB or Python, and you also have, since it's a very popular equation in heat transfer, so you have the solution available for different bio number values for this equation for different n values. I can show you an appendix from the book which so what you see in front of you is the tabulated solution for different values of the bio number. You have the first 4 eigenvalues, that is lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda 3, and lambda 4. In this case, they call it zeta 1 to zeta 4 values available. So although you need infinite number of values, but we'll see that first few values are enough to approximate the theta star value in the summation. Okay, so you can use these tables for finding the values of lambda 1 to lambda 4 for different values of bio numbers. Let me share my board again with you. Okay, so Coming back now, this equation that we have um, for lambda for this theta star is applicable for all values of t star. In fact, if we just see this um, two terms, so remember we earlier said that in we have theta star written as a product of a function of x star, which is my capital X, and t star. So I can see that this cosine term is this x, and this Cn times e to the power of minus lambda n square t star is nothing but the temporal dependence. So it's an infinite Fourier series with the coefficients of the Fourier series, function of time, that bring the time effect, and the cosine term that brings the spatial effect. There's another thing we see here. I mean, it's a Fourier series, so it's a sum of lot of waves. Now, if you look at this, I mean, if I was to break down this graphically or visually, and what I see is that as my lambda n increases, my frequency increases. It's a sum of different waves. So let's for visualization, we draw one wave, and then we have another one, then we have another one, then we have a further one. So you can see that, I mean, it's not really looking like a cos wave, but what you can see is that the frequency is increasing. But what we also see is that the coefficients, that's the contribution of each frequency, also goes down as exponential as we increase the frequency. So what that means is, as I go further, so the amplitude actually goes down, and by the time I reach a large frequency, I may have a very small magnitude, because the magnitude is decreasing as e to the power of minus lambda square. Well, I mean, we were talking about higher values of n here. Okay, so as we keep increasing n, the frequency, so I should write, this is your increasing n. As your n increases, your frequency increases, and the contribution of each higher frequency is much less than the lower frequencies. So although this equations, I mean, this equation that we've written here, this is the solution, is true for all values of t star. But if our t star is higher than 0.2, if my t star is greater than 0.2, then what I see is, I mean, let's look at this term which has the magnitude or the amplitude of the wave. Then it's e to the power of minus lambda n square t star. So of course, if my t star is 0, then each wave gives me the same contribution. But if my t star is greater than 0.2, what I see is that my decay of the exponential is very strong as my n increases. So that means that I can approximate my theta star, which was a sum of infinite number of terms, by only the first term. That is, I can approximate this as C1 e to the power of minus lambda 1 squared t star times cosine of lambda 1 x star. Okay. And that is something we do a lot as engineers, because we have to approximate solution. We can't add infinite terms. But the good thing here is that the contribution of the subsequent terms is going down exponentially. So the approximation we get is very nice. If your t star is, let's say, less than 0.2, let's say 0.1, then you take a couple of terms of theta star. In fact, you can yourself see how what the error is for different values of t star if you approximate only by the first 2 or 3 terms. Okay. And again, t star greater than 0.2 means that you're talking about the solution after particular time. It's a transient solution you want. So you want the solution, if you make a change to the system, how does the temperature change inside the solid as a function of time. So for T star greater than 0.2, that's later times, you can approximate only by the first term in the series. Okay. Yeah, we sometimes also write this as theta star equals theta naught star times cos lambda 1 x star. So we call it theta naught because if you take this solution and you put x star equals to 0, okay, that is your it's x star equal to 0 is this center line. So the temperature at the center line. So if I put my x star equal to 0, I get the temperature at the center line. So that is theta star naught. Okay, so this coefficient that you have here is the same as the theta star value at the center line. So we tend to write the solution as this. Okay, and if you know your I mean, you know the first eigenvalue, so you can find your C1, you can find your lambda 1 squared is already known. You know at what T star value you want to calculate the solution. You know at what position in the bar you want to calculate the solution. So you get the value of your theta star, which if you remember was T minus T infinity upon Ti minus T infinity. So from this you can calculate your T, the temperature in your in degree centigrade. That is what you want. So this technique can then be used to find the temperature at different spatial points and temporal points. Okay, so we will stop here as in this second part of the 17th lecture. So this brings us to the end of the step 2 in unsteady heat conduction. Okay, if I recall, the first step was the lumped capacitance analysis, where the spatial effects are can be neglected. That's for bio number less than 0.1. Next was, we said that for bio number greater than 0.1, we have to consider the spatial dependence. And the third step is when one of these spatial dimensions goes to infinity. So that's called the semi-infinite analysis, and that is what we'll discuss in the next lecture. And you may see that in this case we talked about a bar, but we may have a cylinder. So we may sometimes have a cylinder where again it's symmetric. Sorry. So in that case you will have an R. So you'll write the heat conduction equation in the cylindrical coordinates. So then your temperature will be a function of instead of x, you'll have an R and T, and it could be a sphere as well, where your temperature again is a function of R and T. Okay, so for those situations, the equation can again be solved using the separation of variables. But in that case, you have to write the equation in the cylindrical or the spherical coordinates. And the solution also comes in the form of, in the cylindrical case, you get in terms of the Bessel functions and so on. Okay, so you can refer to the book if you want to see how the solution looks, and for the tables to find the values of these Bessel functions to evaluate the theta star value at a given radial distance. Okay, so thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next lecture.